We'll start with the prayers. Om Bhadram Karnebhi Shruniyama Devaha Bhadram Pashye Makshabhiryajatraha Stirairangaihi Stuštuvakam Sastanubihi Vyashema Devahitam Yadayuhu Swasti na Indro Vrittashravaha Swasti na Pusha Vishvavedaha Swasti nastakshorarishthanemihi Swasti no Brihaspati'r dadatu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We are doing Shankara Bashyam, Mandukya Upanishad, Chapter 4. As I said before, this chapter is a unique chapter. It gives the highest vision of Vedanta. I have not come across another chapter which gives this type of vision. As seekers, we want to get that vision. When we hear first time, second time, third time, fourth time, our mind is getting polished. It is getting ready. When you listen the fifth time, the same truth which has been declared in the Upanishads and in the Bhagavad Gita or Brahma Sutra, when you listen to it fifth or sixth time, what happens is, suddenly your mind instrument understands that vision. This is a problem with all the seekers. Initially, we are studying Bhagavad Gita, we are studying Upanishads, we studied so many Upanishads. But the Advaita vision, our mind cannot understand easily. It takes time. And it is these type of texts and these type of chapters where Shankaracharya tries his best to give us that vision. We finished 2 Karikas, which are Mangala Shlokas for the 4th chapter. Today we will introduce the 3rd Karika, and then we will carry on with the 3rd and the 4th Karikas. The 3rd Karika introduction, Shankaracharya says, how does the different schools of philosophy which existed during Shankaracharya's time, how did they view this truth? From the Karika number 3 onwards till Karika number 6 or till the Karika number 5, as one part of this chapter 4, we are going to study the 4 schools in a very brief manner. What is the essence of the 4 schools and how do they negate each other? What is Vedanta or Advaitam's view is given in the 5th Karika. According to Shankaracharya, the 2nd Karika is a Pratignya Vakya, a proposition about Advaita Tattva. The 3rd Karika and the 4th Karika is the Hetu, the reasoning for Advaita. The 5th Karika is the Nigamanam, which is the conclusion. So we are going to see a very grand vision of the other schools of thought and then what is our school of thought, which is Advaita. Why is it important to study this type of schools? By straight away studying only the Advaita schools, Shankaracharya says, you will know why we are right, but you will not know why others are wrong. Our intellect requires both. The main point which Shankaracharya brings out in these three verses, 3, 4 and 5, try to keep this point at the back of your mind. He says that other four schools, Nyaya, Vaiseshika, Sankhya, Yoga, these are the four names of four philosophers. He says the main difference between Advaitam and others is they look at only the relative Vyavaharika plane and they come to a conclusion. For example, they look at waking state. They see everything is real in the waking state from the waker's standpoint. But from the dreamer standpoint, the waking state is not real. Suppose you stand as a dreamer. Then at that time, if a guru asks you about the waking state, you will say the waking state, where is it? Where is it? It probably existed somewhere. It was only an appearance. So from that, we have discussed this point in the third chapter, but I am trying to revise it again so that you remember how we should have the correct vision. So Shankaracharya says we must shift our vision, our viewpoint, and then see the reality. Shifting the vision means what? Take the waking state, look at all the experiences, we call it amatra, and drop it, negate it. Dream state you take, and the dream experiences umatra, drop it. Sleep state, take it, look at it in your meditation and drop it, because again it is a relative state. Now these three states keep on coming and going. The other schools of thought, which is called as Purva Pakshi, they can't see the higher level, which is Paramarthika level, which is called as Advaitam. They all look at only the relative states and make a conclusion, and they say it is Dvaitam. Slowly try to get used of these two words, Dvaitam, Advaitam. Let it deeply be ingrained in your mind and intellect. What is Dvaitam? What is Advaitam? Because on these two words, the entire philosophy of Advaitam is built around. One individual experiences waking, dream and sleep. Waker's view is not total. Dreamer's view is not total. Sleeper's view is not total. But the Purva Pakshi, the other philosophers, they only look at the waking state and make a conclusion, and they argue against each other. They ask a question, if Jagrat is real, who is the creator of this Jagrat? Then they say Srishti is the reality. The created world is the reality, and it is Sat, it is real from the Jagrat viewpoint. So Purva Pakshi keeps on arguing, saying, I am right, everybody else is wrong. Similarly, people analyze the dream world, they say dream world is mithya. It is true. But from the dreamer's point of view, dream world is real and the waker is unreal. What is Advaitin? Advaitin is not a school of thought, but Advaitam is the truth itself. It is the reality. It is the name of Turiyavastha. And here Shankaracharya shows how these people, they fight with each other. He takes one simple point and then he will describe in verse Karika 3 and Karika 4, and then he gives his conclusion in Karika 5.
Bhutasya jatimicchanti Bhutasya jatimicchanti Vadinah kechidevahi Vadinah kechidevahi Abhutasya pare dhira Abhutasya pare dhira Vivadantah parasparam Vivadantah parasparam.
So here he starts and explains to us how these people, the four schools, they quarrel with each other. How does the evolution come? How does Srishti come? So they mutually quarrel with each other, and Shankaracharya presents the two broad debates amongst themselves. That is how Shankaracharya analyzes all the four schools of thought. If you take waking state, then Srishti is a very serious topic. Srishti means creation. Is a very serious topic, which we discuss in Tattvabodha, from subtle elements, gross elements form, from gross elements, the subtle to gross is Panchikaranam, all that we discuss. What Shankaracharya says is, don't attribute reality to the Srishti, which is Jagrat and the Waker's world. His main contention in all these chapters, as you know very well, is world is mithya. Srishti is negated by a methodology called as Adhyaropa and Apavada. In second chapter and third chapter, there are 3 verses. I've quoted the verses here. We have seen this explanation of these verses. The first verse which is being quoted is, what is non-existent in the beginning and in the end is also non-existent. World before creation was non-existent. After dissolution, it is not non-existent, existent. Try to understand the word existent and existence. You should be able to differentiate existence and appearance. In all these verses, which we are going to see, what is existence, what is appearance. You will see the difference. That was the second chapter, the 6th Karika. In the second chapter, same chapter, 32nd verse, na nirodho na chotpattir, na baddho na sadakaha. Very boldly, Gaudapadacharya says, at any time there was no sadhaka, there was no birth, there is nobody in bondage. This is another way. Which means what? You are negating the world. This is Apavada portion. Then in the third chapter, 48th verse, it says, Na kaschid jayate jivaha. Jiva is never born. This egocentric, separate entity is never born. Very bold statement. This is what is Mandukya. But you have to understand the truth with reference to consciousness. With reference to Turiya Avastha, you have to understand that there is birth and death which is there in the waking state is only an appearance from the Turiyam state. You have to stand on Turiyam, then only you can make these three statements. Now, let us try to understand the debate between these four schools of thought. In Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, there is something called as Ghata Bashyam of Shankaracharya. Very detailed commentary on creation itself. First chapter, second section. Shankaracharya takes the simple example of a clay and pot. He asks the question, does pot exist in clay? Or is pot non-existent in clay? Existent is very important. Before origination, what was there? In the Karanam, clay, pot was existent. This is one school of thought. The second school of thought is, in the clay, pot was non-existent. We see a pot completely different than the clay. Name, form, everything is different. Function is different. So what is the truth behind clay and pot? If you understand the truth behind clay and pot, then you will understand the truth behind consciousness and world. Try to understand clay pot, and first let us understand that. Suppose you say pot was there in clay, that is called as Satkarya Vada. Satkarya Vada. Suppose you say that pot was not existent in clay, then that is called as Asat Karyavada. I am just giving you the broad definition of these two so that you understand the difference between Sat Karya and Asat Karya. Sat means it was existent before in the clay. Sankhya, Yoga, they have this philosophy. Existent pot originates from clay. Existent world originates from Turiyam. Hope it's clear. Satkaryavada, existent pot comes out of clay. Satkaryavada. The world which we see today was existent in consciousness. Consciousness is the cause, world is the effect. Normally speaking, everybody at a junior student level will accept this. But we will see how Asatkaryavada negates the Satkaryavada. What does Asatkaryavada says? He says Asatkaryavada is Nyaya and Vaiseshika. He says non-existent pot originates. If the pot was already there in clay, then there is no need for it to originate. It is already there. So he says non-existent pot was not there in clay. But we see a pot coming out of clay, therefore there is Srishti, therefore there is origination. But what type of origination? From non-existence to existence. In the case of Sat Karyavada, from existence to non-existence, from existence to the appearance. Now, this way, both of them, they fight with each other. What does Vedanta say? What Vedanta says is Turiyam Brahman is always existent. That is alone existing. The entire Srishti is a Maya Shakti in Turiyam. It is only an appearance. See, this is the difference between Sat and Asat and Advaitin, which is Ajativada. Ajativada means there is no origination at all, there is only appearance. So, origination means Utpatti, production. One who thinks that he is wise, Dhiraha. The definition of Dhira is one who thinks that he is intelligent. Now, all these Tarkikas, they claim to be very, very logical in their thought process. And then in the next paragraph, Shankaracharya says, origination claimed to come from existent product in the cause is born. Sankhya, we have just seen that. Now, there are 4 schools of thought. If you want to study these 4 schools of thought, you can go to Google and find out. You can get all the information in the Google search machine. You just put Sankhya Kapila Muni. Kapila Muni is the author of Sankhya. Each of this teaching is given by a philosopher. Yoga is given by Patanjali Rishi. Nyaya is given by Kanada Muni. And Vaiseshika is given by Gautama Muni. If you want to study, there is a lot of material available in Brahma Sutra as well as in the websites. You will find there's a complete Sankhyas. They have their own sutras also. Like we have Brahma Sutra, they also have Sankhya Sutras. Patanjali Yoga Sutras are also there. Each have their own viewpoint, but the main thing you should remember is all of these are Paurusheya Darshanam. Paurusheya Darshanam means that these are given out by the philosophers by applying their own intellect. Every intellect will have a dosha. Somebody will say yes, and I see it in this way, I see it the other way. So this is the main claim of Shankaracharya. Purusha Buddhi will always have dosha. Therefore, don't try to imagine any creation theory in your own mind by yourself. That will be totally wrong. Try to understand the different schools of thought, and you will find there are loopholes in them. And then you try to come to Advaitam, which is the Shankaracharya school, and then try to see the entire vision of the world presented by Advaita. Throughout chapter 4, we are going to keep seeing Advaitam, how Shankaracharya and Gaudapadacharya reveal the nature of the world as given out by the Veda, which is a Paurusheya Pramana. Paurusheya means human intellect. Apaurusheya means beyond the human intellect, which is the creator. Islam was revealed to Prophet Muhammad. Again, he has given this entire interpretation. Philosophy which is not based on revelation, but it is based on human intellect, reasoning of the human intellect is called as unaided reasoning. Philosophy which is not aided by Shastra. Suppose you develop a philosophy which is aided, that means which is in congruence with Shruti, with the Veda. That, according to Shankaracharya, is the correct philosophy. The Tarkikas, that means the logicians, all these four schools are all logic oriented. Tarkika Sampradaya, what is the tradition of the logicians? They have used pure reasoning for their conclusions. And that is how they form their school of thought. They never use Shastra, which is Veda or Upanishads. What is Vedika Sampradaya? Vedika Sampradaya, the first thing is it is predominantly dependent on the Veda. The other four schools are dependent on logic, reasoning. Veda is based on the seventh mantra of the Mandukya Upanishad, where Advaitam is mentioned and where the details of what the world's vision is according to Advaitam. We are going to do meditation on this verse today. We'll see how to develop that. So Sankhya, Yoga, Nyaya, Vaiseshika, these are all based on their own intellect. What about Purva Mimamsa? Purva Mimamsa is a school of thought which is based on Veda Purva portion. Veda Purva and Veda Anta. The Upanishads and Shankaracharya, they depend on Veda Anta portion. Veda Purva portion is the ritualists. They have a totally different vision, which again you can study. In Brahma Sutra, we study this in a much more detailed fashion. In this fourth chapter, Shankaracharya and Gaudapadacharya are going to have a boxing match of these four schools and also Buddhism in the later section. What does Advaitin do? Ultimately, we go to the ring after the fight is over. Advaitin goes and presents his vision and says, this is what you will give. This is what is the final, and this is how you will get moksha. So this is the third Karika. Fourth Karika is again an expansion of the third. Here Shankaracharya uses Sundipa Sundam Nyaya, which is a Nyaya where the main problem is each one destroys the other. That's called as Sundipa Sundanaya. So that is what is being done by these four philosophers. Satkaryavada negates Asatkaryavada. Asatkaryavada negates the Satkaryavada. Ultimately, what do they say? What the Shankaracharya says, both Karyam and Karanam are not the ultimate truth. Brahmajnana Vallimala, which we have seen so many times, even we have meditated on this, Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. The word Mithya is the most important word and the most difficult word to understand in the whole Advaita philosophy. Mithya. If you can understand Mithya correctly, you have understood Advaita. Advaitam says there is Ajativada. Ajativada means no product called as pot or world is ever born. There is no Srishti as such, but it is only an appearance. Inside the Srishti, there is a lot of duality. In the relative field, Shankaracharya accepts duality. Shankaracharya says, in your philosophy, indirectly you are addressing Advaitam only. Ultimately, you are accepting Satkaryavada says Asat is not there. Asat says Sat is not there. So, indirectly, what do they say? Both are not there. Advaitam alone is the right vision. If you understand Advaitam, it will give you moksha. Brahadanika Upanishad, this particular mantra, says, if you understand Advaitam, you will never have fear in life. So just to summarize, logicians are Sankhya, Yoga, Nyaya, Vaiseshika. Vaidikas are people who believe in the Veda. One is the Purva Mimamsa and the second is the Uttara Mimamsa. Purva Mimamsa is Dvaitam. Madhavacharya and Ramanujacharya, they are the two philosophers who believe in Dvaitam and Visishta Advaitam. Visishta Advaitam is by Ramanujacharya. Madhavacharya clearly says it is Dvaitam. What about Nastikas? We also find a lot of people who have no belief in God itself. Jains, Charvakas, they say the world is the only thing. You just eat and be merry and just enjoy the world and go. That is Charvakas. And similarly the scheme of Jains and then Bauddhas. There are 4 schools of Bauddhas who are Nirishwaravadis. They don't believe in Ishvara, they don't believe in Veda. They believe in Shanika Vijnana, consciousness which is fleeting. So earlier I have said, if you are primarily focused on Veda, then you are Advaita. If you are primarily focused on logic, you are and use Veda as a secondary pramanam, then you are Dvaitin. Dvaitins have got defects and fallacies in their matam, and in Kathopanishad it clearly says logic will not give you moksha because it has inbuilt defects. Only a Vaidika guru can reveal the reality. Why? Because Vaidikas means people who use Veda, and Veda alone has the power to reveal the ultimate reality. We can use logic to understand the Veda, but not to prove the Veda. This is what the gurus they teach us. Use logic. Even many times, Veda that itself uses logic, but it is logic to prove, not to prove Veda, logic as a support for Veda. Manasai Veda aptavyam neha nanasti kinchana. Very important mantra. We have quoted this many times in our study of Mandukya. This is a pramanam. Pramanam to say ultimately there is no world. Don't try to do too much of research in the world. Why this, why that, why this? A lot of people who are seekers also, without understanding this truth, they keep on dissecting the world and world. Ultimately, what does Mandukya Upanishad says? Mandukya Upanishad says the world is just a projection, like a dream. You see it, you experience it, and forget about it. Instead of keep on remembering again and again, she did this, he did that, then you're ruining your present. Kaivalya Upanishad also uses this word. These are the two main mantras in the entire Vedic literature which talk about negation of the world. Of course, there is Neti Neti in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Kaivalya Upanishad, the 23rd and 24th mantra. For a jnani, there is no world, there is no earth, there is no water, there is no five elements. For a jnani. In the Katha Upanishad also, the beautiful question which was asked by Nachiketa, all of you will remember this, we have done this beautiful Upanishad. What was Nachiketa's question? If you remember, then you will understand whatever the debate we are going to see in the next section. Nachiketa asked, what is beyond cause and effect? He didn't ask for the karanam of the world. What is the cause of the world? That was not the Nachiketa's question. Because he knew that in the relative field there is a karanam, there is a karyam. As long as you are in the relative vyavaharika field, you can never arrive at the truth. What is beyond past and future? Beyond time. Beyond cause and effect. His question was directed at Turiyam. The same Turiyam is what Shankaracharya is revealing in Mandukya Upanishad as the ultimate truth, Advaitam. In Sankhya philosophy, nature, Prakriti is the Karanam, cause. Prapancha means the world is the effect. That means five elements is the cause, and the world is, the whole world which we see is made up of five elements. Cause and effect, this is what it is. But what is their philosophy? Their philosophy is, cause is Satyam, real, the world is also Satyam. Panchabhutas are Satyam and the world is Satyam. Both are Satyam. This is where Shankaracharya differs. In Nyaya Vaiseshika, what is the cause, what is the effect? In Nyaya and Vaiseshika philosophy, Karanam is Param Anu, Paramanu. Atoms. They were like the scientists of modern world. Nyaya and Vaiseshika. Long before the scientists, before they could discover the atoms and elements and all that, our rishis, they knew this. If you break down the entire universe, it comes into, you ultimately reach something called as Paramanu. And they say Paramanu is also Satyam and the world is also Satyam. Karanam and Karyam, both are Satyam. Gold is Satyam, ring, bangle and chain is also Satyam. Sarvam Satyam. If you go with this philosophy, the problem is you will never have moksha. You will get some view of the world, but you can never get out of this world. You can never be free from limitations. That is the argument of Shankaracharya. Nyaya Vaiseshika refutes yoga and Sankhya. Sankhya is a word which is used also in the Veda in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Sankhya Yoga. Sankhya there means Atma. Sankhya is a Vaidika word which is used by the Kapila Muni and Patanjali. They also use the word Sankhya, so that you don't get confused between, when you read Patanjali Yoga Sutra, you will find the word Sankhya. When you use this Sankhya also, Sankhya philosophy, they will also use the word Sankhya. So both Kapila Muni and Patanjali, they use the word Sankhya, but the way and the meaning of Sankhya is very, very different in Advaitam and in Nyaya Vaiseshika philosophy. So, Sankhya and Yoga, the main philosophy is Satkaryavada, Asatkaryavada, and both of them, they refute each other, and they have their own logic. Advaitam says it drops the karyam as mithya, false appearance. You see, the word appearance is extremely important. What is existent and what is appearance? I, the Turiya Atma, am consciousness, am Satyam, I am pure Sat Chit Ananda, that is always there. What about the world? The world is coming and going, appearing, disappearing. Yesterday I did something, I saw myself doing certain things, again today something else, and tomorrow there will be something else. That is the nature of this world which we are experiencing. So, what we say is Ajativada. Ajativada means there is no Karanam and Karyam, there is only an appearance which is Mithya. Next, the Karika number 4, now we'll see what does it say. This is what we have seen so far is the introduction to this Karika.
Bhutam na jayate kinchid Bhutam na jayate kinchid Abhutam naiva jayate Abhutam naiva jayate Vivadanto dvaya hevam Vivadanto dvaya hevam Ajatim khyāpayanti te Ajatim khyāpayanti te.
Here Shankara, Gaudapada Acharya gives the explanation why these people are wrong. The existent is born, the non-existent is also born, is completely a wrong philosophy. How does the Nyaya philosophy negate the Sankhya? They say existent product can never be born because it is already existent. And then what is the statement of Sankhya Yoga? How do they reject the Vaiseshika? They say non-existent product can't originate because it is non-existent. Can you see the difference? Both of them, they keep on talking about either something which is already there coming out from it, or it is not there and it is coming out from something. That means from non-existence a product is created. See, it's quite illogical, isn't it? So either the product is there and then we are seeing it, but what is the truth? Neither existent or non-existent product can originate. And Shankaracharya, therefore he says, no product can be born. This entire karyam which we see is mithya. They are all declaring non-origination of a product. Both of them are declaring that it is not possible for the utpatti. Utpatti means you cannot originate something which is not there or which is hidden to us. Appearance and existence. What is the difference between the two? I told you before also. Keep these two words, very important words in our philosophy, in Advaita philosophy. According to us, Advaitam, Everything other than Atma is Anatma. It is not Atma. And every Anatma is an appearance, like a rope snake appearing in rope, like a dream world appearing in the waker's mind. Similarly, the entire waking state is appearing in Turiya Avastha, in Turiyam, which is pure consciousness. So, Anatma has got dependent existence. It has no independent existence. It borrows existence. Dreamer. The dream world borrows its existence from the waker's mind. Rope snake borrows existence from the rope. Mirage water borrows existence from the sand. So all these appearances are only mithya. They appear, disappear. And what is existence? Existence means which exists in 3 periods of time continuously without changing. That is why it is called as substratum or adhishtanam. Continuously it is there. I, the consciousness, Turiyam, am continuously there. And that is called as existence. World which is seen in the waking state, is not seen in the sleep state. It is an appearance exactly like the dream world seen in the dream state. It is not there in the waking state. That is mithya. Satyam mithya is where you have to be very, very clear. If this is not understood, try to question yourself. Why I am not able to understand? This dream and waking is such a simple example. Similarly is this waking state and Atma. If you understand dream and waking and Atma is very easy. Without I, the Chaitanya Atma, there is no world. That is what is Neha Nanasti Kinchana. World appears in non-dual me, which is Chaitanya. See, I am going very deep into the Vedantic philosophy in these slides. These slides up to the next, all this chapter 4 is all the highest of Vedanta. So far, before and all, we have studied Bhagavad Gita, though those will never go into this depth. This depth you will get only in Mandukya. This type of logical reasoning you will see in Mandukya, not even in other Upanishads. World appears in non-dual me. This Chaitanyam is non-dual. It is his consciousness is, there is no second object in consciousness. There is no second consciousness also. Why is no second object in consciousness? Because second object is mithya. With reference to the waker's mind, there is no dream world at all, because dream world is mithya. So pure being, pure consciousness can never be tainted by whatever happens in the waking. See, suppose you take the dream example, can the waker be tainted? Can the waker feel sorrowful in the waking state because of dream? Nothing, because the dream world is gone. It cannot affect the waker. Similarly, waker's world cannot affect Atma. Make your intellect sharp enough to understand. Rise from your waking state mind to the pure state mind where there is only consciousness. That is the revelation of all the Upanishads and the Bhagavad Gita. Remain there, and that if your mind can stabilize in that truth, that is what is called as freedom. World, body, mind is an appearance in Atma Chaitanyam. Amani Bhava. We have seen this Amani Bhava. Advaitam is Amani Bhava. Amani Bhava means there is no mind in Atma. I, the consciousness, pure being, allow the waking state to appear and disappear. Like how the waker allows the dream world to appear and disappear, I allow, I the conscious, you're rising above this body level, beyond time. What is described in the seventh mantra of Mandukya, you're trying to put it in practice to understand the real truth and to claim that truth is my real nature. Normally, instead of saying it is adhyasa, we call it shrishti and layam. Shrishti means we say it is a creation. The creation is a wrong word, because creation is not there. It is only an appearance and disappearance, and both appearance and disappearance are time bound. It has a time in which it comes and a time in which it goes out. Like, take for example our waking state. Morning it arrives, evening it goes away. Again, for 8 hours I am Advaitam, pure being. Again, next day morning, waking state comes, the waking state ends. For me, so is for everybody in the world. I am the ever free Turiya Atma. Shankaracharya continues to give commentary after commentary just to negate the Sat and Asat Karyavadas. Kinchitu na jayate. Nothing is ever born. Atma is never born in any philosophy. Nobody says that Atma is born. Everybody says body is born, mind is born, world is born. But all the four philosophers, Sankhya, Yoga, Nyaya, Vaiseshika, all of them, they say Atma is never born. Because it is ever existent. It is ever existent and it is ever evident. So, Aham, when you say the word Aham, there are two meanings for Aham. One is the ego Aham, the second is the Atma Aham. Atma Aham is the Turiya Aham, which is the fourth pada, which is Satyam. The ego Aham is the Karanam and Karyam, which we see in the relative field. That I is associated with the body is called as the ego. I associated with the body, with the mind, is called as the ego I. It is a relative I. It has relative experiences. This ego I is a shadow of the original Atma I. Kathopanishad calls it a shadow. So, when you start from Turiyam and then analyze the waking, dream and sleep, then you get the grand vision of Turiyam Satyam Jagat Mithya. Tata Abhutam. Next paragraph of Shankaracharya. Why is the world non-existent product is not born, says Satkaryavada? Why does the Satkaryavada say that non-existent product is rising up? Okay, there is another logic to this. There is one thing which is called as, which is ever non-existent. That is your rabbit's horn or flowers in the sky. It is never there. The world is appearing, disappearing, but there is something which is totally non-existent. So by these two schools of thought, which is Satkarya and Asatkaryavada, because they negate each other in their philosophies, Shankaracharya and Gaudapadacharya says, okay, let them fight with each other, and I know that they are fighting because they are both in the same plane of Vyavaharikam. They are all dualistic philosophers. Whereas Vedanta is avivadaha. Vivadaha means debatable. Avivadaha means it can never be debated. All the four schools are debatable because they are in the Vyavaharika plane. This broad definition of Satkarya, Asatkaryavada, I have already discussed with you. So that is what is the essence of the fourth Karika, where we have seen that origination is a wrong concept. Shrishti, Utpatti, origination, they are all wrong concepts which we have to avoid in our thinking process. It is quite difficult in the initial stages, but as you keep reading this Mandukya Upanishad more and more, you will, like I said in the first chapter itself, Advaitam sounds very difficult, but then you read the second chapter, you get a little bit more convinced. Third chapter, a little bit more convinced. Now fourth chapter, you keep reading it, you see, by the end of the fourth chapter, if your intellect has picked up 10% of this knowledge in the Mandukya Upanishad, you have achieved a lot. Your intellect has really spiritually grown, because Mandukya is the most difficult Upanishad to really understand at the highest level. Let's try to see what is the conclusion of this third and the fourth mantra Karikas. How does Advaitin conclude both these, and what is his presentation? Very beautiful presentation.
Khyapyamanajatim taihi Khyapyamanajatim taihi Anumodamahe vayam Vivadamo natai sardham Vivadamo navtai sardham Avivadam nibodhata Avivadam nibodhata.
So in this fifth Karika, Gaudapadacharya explains his philosophy, which is free from all contradictions and doubts and disputes. Advaita Darshanam is Asparsha Yoga. There are two titles given in chapter 4 for Advaita Darshanam. One is called as Avivadaha and second is Asparsha. Avivadaha means there is no possibility of debate in Advaita. He will explain why. Then there is Advaitam is Asparsha. It is untouched by any argument, anything in the relative field. It is untouched. That is what is Advaitam. Advaitin does not have a raga and dvesha for any philosopher. He is not attached to yoga and nyaya, and he is not averse with Vaiseshika and Purva Mimamsa. Why? Advaitam has got a concept of Paramarthika, which is What is the meaning of Paramarthikam? Paramarthikam means it is Triputi Rahitam. Triputi Rahitam means what? Knower, known, knowing instrument is not there in Advaita. That is why it is called as Paramarthika. No, see, when do you become a knower? When you are using your mind. And when do you use your mind? When you are either in the dream state without the body, this physical body, or you use the mind when you are with the physical body. With the physical body, it is always Dvaitam. Without the physical body in dream state is also again Dvaitam. So fifth Karika is the Nigamanam, which I told you before. The second Karika is the Pratigna. Advaitam is the truth. Third and fourth is the Hetu. Hetu means reasoning. And conclusion is Nigamanam in Sanskrit. This is the three words used by Tarkikas, the logicians. Pratigna, Hetu, Nigamanam. This is the way they prove logically what is the truth. Advaitam transcends all arguments and oppositions is the final statement of Gaudapadacharya. Purva Paksha and Siddhantin. Siddhantin means it is the Advaitin. Purva Paksha means the oppositions. Paramartha Darshanam is our plane. First thing which we should understand is Advaitam is not in the relative plane. It is not, we are not discussing of Dvaitam in the Paramarthikam. We are only talking of Dvaitam in the relative field of Jagrat and Sushupti and Swapna. But in the Paramarthika level is Advaitam. We accept Dvaitam in the Vyavaharika field. A person in dream, he cannot fight with a person in the waking state. Similarly, we cannot fight with the Nyaya and the Vaiseshikas because we are in the Paramarthika field. There are two different orders of reality. Paramarthikam is Advaitin. Vyavaharikam, we are Mahadvaitin. Pratibhasikam, which is the dream world, Dvaitam is accepted. So our answer is, in Vyavaharikam, we accept Jiva Jiva Bheda, Jiva Jagat Bheda, and Jiva Ishvara Bheda. In the waking state, we are all different. Because the differences we accept. Sajatiya, Vijatiya, Swagata Bheda exists in the relative plane. But all these differences are there in the relative plane. But in the Paramarthika level, which is the Turiyam level, it is Soham. Soham means that consciousness alone exists. I, the Jiva, which is attached to this body and mind, who am experiencing the waking state, I learn to drop my body mind and separate the consciousness awareness principle and then say this awareness principle is the truth of the whole universe. In the relative reality, there is Prakriti, there is Paramanu. Satkaryavada, real world based on Satkaryavada, Asatkaryavada does not exist. Real world does not exist. Unreal world exists. Whether you call it as Sat or whether you call it as from Asat, that doesn't matter. What Shankaracharya says is, whether the pot comes from clay or pot was existing in clay, we don't really go into that argument at all, because in our view, clay and pot both are mithya. Ajativada is the title which is given to Asparsha and avirodha. So that is the fifth Karika. I will just introduce the sixth Karika, then we will see next week the details of the sixth Karika.
अजातस्यैव धर्मस्य जातिमिच्छन्ति वादिनः अजातो ह्यमृतो धर्मः मर्त्यतां कथमेष्यति.
So in this three verses, three Karikas, 6, 7 and 8, what Gaudapadacharya establishes is that birthless, deathless, immortal reality is not subject to mortality, because it is a different plane of existence. I'll explain to you as we go by. And these three verses are the repetition of three verses which we have seen in the third chapter. If you go back to third chapter and look at 20, 21, 22, and you study the 6, 7, 8, it is exactly the same verses which Gaudapadacharya repeats. And what is the essence of these three verses? The essence is Advaitam. There, these three verses says that Panchabhutas or parents, they are relative causes. Ultimately, Turiyam is the absolute causeless cause. Intermediate causeless causes can be many because products are so many. Moola Karanam, ultimate cause, is that which does not have a cause. Therefore, if it doesn't have a cause, that means what? It is not a product also. If there is a cause, then there is a product. So that is why it is called as Anadi. Turiyam is Anadi, means it is always there. Ultimate cause is beginningless. It is not a product. It is only a cause. With reference to the relative world. So ultimately we say, who is God? God is the cause of everything. This is the general thing which we use. God is not a product. It does not have a cause. God is the ultimate cause. Ultimate cause does not exist and it is never experienced. It is only inferred. It is only inferred because we see the world. See the argument now. You see, first we say God is the ultimate cause. We take it as an ultimate cause, it's an absolute cause. But then Shankaracharya goes one step further. This is going at a still more deeper level of argument. He says that the Karanam, Turiyam or Brahman, is beyond cause and effect. Till now we were saying, okay, there is some cause, consciousness is the cause of this world. But now we say consciousness is not even cause of the world, because world is mithya. When there is no world, then where is the question of cause? That is why in the third pada, the sleep state, which is called as the state of ignorance about Brahman, Ignorance about that Turiyam, which is ultimate principle. So Brahman can't logically be Karanam. So Vedanta allows two statements. First, one statement is Brahman is not a Karanam. That is a clear, distinct statement. In some Upanishads, it says Brahman is a seeming Karanam. Seeming Karanam. Seeming Karanam means actually it is Mithya. It is not a Karanam. But it is just using a statement Brahman is a seeming Karanam. Why do we say Brahman is not a Karanam? Because if it is a Karanam, it has to undergo change. That means what? Paramatma becomes Jivatma, and then Jivatma also becomes Paramatma. So this change is not accepted in the Veda. Therefore, we say ultimately, why we say Brahman is not a Karanam? Because it is Nishkriyaha, it is Nirvikaraha. Any cause has to be changing. Then only it becomes a cause. Like gold changes to become an ornament. These are the three verses from the third chapter, which is the repetition in this fourth chapter. So, through sadhana or meditation, if you become Paramatma, then what happens? You can also lose your moksha nature. That is what is important for us. See, moksha is our intrinsic nature. It is not something which comes because of the study of Upanishads. Before study also I am Mukta Purusha, which is Turyatma. After study also I am Mukta. For a junior student we will say Bhagwan or Brahman is the Karanam. Therefore the world is Karyam, Bhagwan is the Karanam. It is Adhyaropa. For a senior student, we'll say Bhagwan is a seeming Karanam. Adhyaropa is replaced by Apavada. Apavada means world can be negated, but Turiya Atma can never be negated. Vaker is not a Karanam for the dream world. It is a seeming Karanam. Similarly, Bhagwan is a Vivarta, changeless Karanam for this world. So, in the presence of Turiya Atma, the three states come and go. The Turiya Atma is called as Kutastha Asanga Chaitanyam. Changeless, relationless consciousness. Okay, you have said so much about all this logic and Satkaryavada, Asatkaryavada, all that, Ajativada, all that is words and words and words. Tell me something simple. What is the real conclusion of today's talk? Today's talk, the conclusion is, I was Brahman or Turiyam. I am Brahman or Turiyam now, and I am ever Turiyam or Brahman. That is the ultimate truth of the Veda. Therefore, I should make a note and try to understand the nature of Brahman again and again. What is that truth which is described in the 7th mantra of Mandukya Upanishad? So with this, I will stop today's talk, and we will start from this slide 3570 next week, and we'll continue. It's a very, very beautiful conclusion to this 2-3 verses, and if you are able to follow this and understand this, then you will have a better grasp of the entire teaching. Om Purnamada पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्छते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।